and marginalized groups like women, children, persons with disabilities, children disability, and most vulnerable to HIV, administrative justice, access to justice, social justice, disability rights, and legal processes. Over to you. All the things.
Okay, thank you and good morning, everyone. Hey, everybody. Morning. Oh, just checking, just checking. That good morning did sound very cute. Okay, as you already introduced, my name is Shibwana. Want to hopefully have an interactive session with you on barriers to access to justice. I know during the introductions that we have people with disability law, disability rights, we have persons with disabilities, we've got people who are working and interacting with the justice system in their everyday work. And so I know I'm already preaching to a convention, which is a manual task for me this morning. But it's a topic that is very close to my heart and one that I thoroughly enjoy discussing over and over because, as Diana indicated, we've got a long way to go in the African context on how we address or deal with disability, and particularly access to justice, looking at our justice systems. Now, it's just allow some space for them to do what they need to do. So the first thing that I would like to do is just to discuss a bit of concept of access to justice, bearing in mind that, I think Professor Holness will also talk about it to a great extent, but just as a way of setting the foundation for what we are discussing this morning. And in doing so, I just want to flag the fact that whenever we talk about access to justice, we know that we're referring to a very complex concept, and people understand it differently, right? So if we're talking about disability, complex, different angles, and I'm not able to agree on one term disability, we can basically relate the same to the context of access to justice. And its complexity, in my view, arises from two major points, But from what I've noticed is that, first of all, we have complexities arising from societal presentation, right? We talked about the formula of D equals I plus B. Diana, I hope you got it eventually. Okay, so when we're talking about societal representations, we're really looking at how society and people within societies, within communities, are presenting barriers for persons with disabilities to enjoy their rights to justice. The second is the identities, the different identities and experiences of persons with disabilities. And each time we talk about barriers and we talk about some of the challenges that persons with disabilities experience, you need to bear in mind that some of these will come from society and from systems, whereas others will come from the experiences that individuals actually have. So without necessarily defining it, I just want to look at some of the legs or elements of access to justice. And the American Bar Association Rule of Law Project, which I spent some time working within the Zambia first identify access to justice, legal representation, and I'd like us to just speak a bit, or to create some of these as we look at the experience when we look at the barriers in a bit.
Okay, so one thing I remember, I think sometime in May, we held public hearings for persons with disabilities bill and also the PPO bill, which also affects persons with disabilities. And I remember that in one of the hearings, there wasn't a sign language interpreter, and the other time, the venue had to be changed. We had to convene outside the tree because it didn't accommodate persons with disabilities.
Thank you. Which country again?
Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Take that mic on the outside and one on the inside.
Yeah. Mine is sort of a personal experience, but a relative in Zimbabwe who has, I think, been diagnosed with psychosocial, I think he has psychosocial disability, he's taking medication, but he had an episode and ended up being involved in an outpatient with a member of Shari's States. And so he got arrested. When he got arrested, they put him in prison. So the family knew that he was supposed to take medication. So, but the issue was he spent so much time in custody. And in Zimbabwe, one of the biggest issues is if there's suspicion that the use of mental health act, it's very difficult to get people out because the first thing is the magistrate takes note that the mental health act applies. And to confirm that, you have to be examined by doctors at prison who then have medication or whether it's extra all these things. So he was in custody. So he was otherwise when he was on medication, he was okay. But then that incident. So I approached, I was approached, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm a lawyer, whatnot. But practically, what we wanted was to get him released. But there was a dilemma. So if it was made clear that there were medical issues, that would have mitigated or assisted in terms of the challenges he was facing. But at the same time, it then ran the risk of them getting a bigger, which was the sentence than the president is those things that we had if you just go in and the person was self-released, but how and not to involve the mental issue. Once you know, they just did it. They say it's pretty guilty. And the point was going on. But they said he's pretty guilty. And he was fine, he was given community service. And then the relatives decided to take him out. So again, that was practical thing. But even the position, the software office, some of the case was street where they with the instead of addressing the situation
this is option to draw that out. So I think we are enough. We are very so we could be justice to people with disabilities.
Thank you so much.
Okay, this one is my personal experience. We once had a client who none of us could sign in the whole office.
One, you have client was what? Sorry.
The client was couldn't speak, so none of us could sign in the office. And we could see the frustration in this lady's face because she was bringing a domestic violence case. None of us could help her. So she eventually went to fetch somebody because she could also not write. So we couldn't communicate in any form. So she went to fetch her brother who came and explained what she needed. So I felt very, very bad because anything could have happened with her going back home to the same house that she's been abused. So I felt really, really bad that we couldn't assist in any way.
Where is that?
In the Spokane Magistrate Court. But now the wheels of justice are turning with interpreters are being sent for sign language. So at least we are getting there.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
Well, based on my experience, there is a sheer lack of universally designed buildings for both legal practitioners and the public, so to speak. So it becomes a challenge.
Which experience were you sharing from which country?
South Africa.
South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the solution. I think the biggest challenge here is that most people are not able to, there's little people. Yes, disability. And we have used it for a long time. Yes, I'm saying they don't have access because suddenly the police, everyone, we are not able to help. We are not able to help with them. I think about time. Because some just go silent because they can't even just break. Or some are not able to work there to go and report because they don't have access or the machinery to do that from where they are to where we will just get them as soon as that this child, that man, who's got this disability, something. So I think so many cases go unreported. So I think it's about time to step up and see what we do, especially disability. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have one more? Okay, please.
Thank you. My experience from Malawi.
Maybe I will see. Okay. See this in the meantime. Sabia. Oh, there we go.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that my experience is not quite different from some of the experiences that have already been shared. It was the issue of an accused person who was not able to hear and speak. So we had difficulties because we also don't have sign interpreters. And we had to adjourn the matter so that we could try to find a person who would help us to interpret for him to understand when we really got the charges to the person. And fortunately, of course, at the prosecution, they were able to get the matter, but in any event, maybe if the matter was being tried at a district court, they would have had so much charges. This was a better situation because it was closer to the region where we were able to find the interpreter. But in the districts, it's very difficult to find interpreters, sign interpreters who can help for the matters to run petitions for them. Thank you.
Thank you. I have not heard from Kate.
Very interesting. Yes, we do have challenges for justice. I have my own personal experiences I shared in the forum that was, and this is I work as a probation officer, and our work is to assist the courts to make the decisions. And one of the saddest cases that I encountered when I got began the interest of understanding persons with disabilities was a case of a young person who had been charged with the offense of defilement. And the young man had problem with intellectual disability. So from a very young age, he could not understand. His learning capabilities were low. One of the characteristics was that in his way of communication, he would always say yes to everything that he was told or that he was being asked about. He was never violent, he was never confrontational, but anytime that you talk to him, he would just agree to what you told him. So in the place where he was, a young girl who had a conflict with the father was, because of her behavior, going out and not coming home, had a confrontation with the father, and because she had come out and said that. So when asked where she was, she said she was in the place of this young man. When the young man was asked, he said yes. So the young man was told he was taken to court. And when he was taken to court, everything that was being asked, he would say yes, yes, yes. Until the person asked, found there was something not enough, and said, probation officers do a report. So at the time that I was doing that report, I went up to the home, I went to the school where he had been, and I found that he had grown up with intellectual disability. The teachers were able to confirm that he was able to understand the way the other children understand, and his learning was different from the way the others were. And with that, I was able then to write back to the court and tell the court, these are cases, a special case. So proceeding with it will not add value. And later on, even the father to the girl said the girl will not come because the father came to learn the girl had actually friend with the boy. Actually said the girl never come to court to testify. So this boy was just in the demand for all the time, for a long time. And because of what I did, then the court was able then to say, now this case ought not to be justice. Eventually was given bail, but later on the prosecution was withdrawn. So lack of understanding of the person with disabilities is a big issue. That's just one case that I dealt with in one of the biggest courts in Kenya. There are many other cases that are there, but if the justice actors as we should have the understanding of the cases that would be fine. Even for me, the success was because prior to that case, that I had been convening in category. What I had been sensitized about PTSD and the accommodations and how to deal with the past. So I was sensitized. Without that, I would have just been like in a.
Thank you. I'll take that last contribution and then I can move on. Yes, please, fine. Yeah. Feel free to say it.
I'm Jeanette Wagner. I'm Victoria Rogers Private School. I'm visually impaired. Share my experience with you. I make use of a guide dog. And unfortunately, within the Department of Justice, working for the Department of Justice for 26 years, I went through severe abuse. Now, I've been very well when I'm not allowed to access my office. So usually I make a job of it, so I leave, I wait outside to sort out the problem. But unfortunately, I just saw this as well. For 2 years, I was abused severely in my office. Making use of the guidance, I didn't want to work with me in my office because of my guidance. Then I was moved to another court. Not even me, the public members using a guidance is being thrown out. So I could do something about people making use of guidance, please.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for those experiences. And I don't know if there's anyone here who any of the experiences shared. think was relate every single story that has been. Right? If you read the three reports that I was referring to earlier, about Tanzania, you will find all these stories here and there and more. And there's been a lot of experiences of persons with disabilities. So this is not information that is not known or is not public, it's not, right? But we still have this challenge of having, to access justice for persons with disabilities. And you can group so many clusters as it children violence. People just believe that a person is be must not be reported, but by court or traditional court, as the case may be. Influences are colonial, right? Because we have colonial that told us who are persons with disabilities, children, and were deemed to be incapable of doing certain things, so on and so forth. Statement that was made earlier, first presentation, that disability is not that. We know that so many aspects they don't relate to that because to them disability equals right? If you have disability and able to do certain things, that attitude needs to change. It has infiltrated almost every aspect of our lives. The justice sector has not been spared. And when you think about social cultural differences, you think about what our traditional leaders, our social organization of life. How do we perceive persons? We perceive them as equals, persons without disabilities. And when you talk about reasonable accommodation, our reasonable accommodation, the same concept as helping a person to do that, assisting, and then other social, the other models we're talking about, charity model, medical model, and so on and so forth. Ways in which we want to intervene to ensure that the right to justice is actually enjoyed. Are we viewing those ways through a rights-based lens or through this other? If we don't change that attitude, we'll see the situation of this continue. Right? And these are experiences that disabilities are encountered with the justice. When you think about legal barriers, a lot of these will run through all of this, right? Some of the political influences are referred to the social cultural influences will still affect our legal barriers, affect our knowledge barriers, and so on and so forth. So legal barriers, we know, we talk about capacity. What are some of our own experiences in our home countries? What tools do we have that bar the recognition of legal capacity for persons with disabilities? In Zambia, we have a very interesting situation where we almost 100% domesticate the person. The SCRP did the Person with Disability Act, which is one of our beautiful pieces of legislation. And then a few years later, we developed our mental health, which has a weird vision on legal capacity. So what does this mean? In one breath, we say we recognize the capacity. The same government has a couple of years, the member says, legal capacity will be enjoyed, but in these circumstances, we not. And we know that there is no such thing when it comes to legal capacity, right? So again, that confession that our legal procedures, who was raped by so many of them, and one of those rapists nephew to a police officer, right? So at some point, the doctor was missing, and then the police were doing investigations, they spoke to her, They only went and interviewed the doctor, and she was lying right there in the interview with the doctor was happening, and the doctor was saying, you can't, I can't give you a full report now because I'm still doing the preliminary investigations or examination. But she was fast, she was just waiting. And she said, they never spoke to me, they just asked me, are you sure this is what happened to you? So that's the first time she heard that question. The next time she heard that question, 4 or 5 other times, was in a courtroom from the magistrate. Are you sure this is what this? Are you sure this happened? They went in that story. Are you sure? No. And she felt like this person is not believing me. How are we going to get through this? And somehow that case was really in favor only because one of the rapes ended up confessing. So there was nothing that within the criminal justice system that concluded an investigation professionally came out with this information and helped the court avoid having decision. Right. So our lawyering, our methodology, we allow systems or procedures to apply everyone able to access. But in many jurisdictions, courts are invited to a particular area to go view the evidence, right? You can go to a particular yard, you can go to a particular crime scene as a bench and investigate or see what it is that cannot be brought into the court. Again, in that is referring to, there was a young man who was evicted or was given an eviction notice from the premises that was there, their renting house. I think it's because of a failing to pay their rent. Call the facilities were not there, the type of vehicle they needed to move from their house to the police station and later into the courtroom. It just couldn't happen. They couldn't afford it themselves. That's why they were anyway. Right. So they were then issued with a ban warrant to arrest them because they were on missing court sessions of the police. Right. Procedure. When we know this person has questions and get the testimony was not contemplated or it wasn't in the contemplation of before this particular person. So we need to think about the procedure, how we draw a lawyer, or whatever it is that we ask whether issues like legal remedies. The example that so many pictures regarding her relative. What is the effective remedy here? You know that the person has committed an offense, but that offense was induced by certain things. So those of you who are familiar with criminal law, you know most crimes you must have mens rea and actus reus. It's not just the fact that you actually did offending, but you must have guilty mind. Mens rea is the guilt of your mind. What is your capability and law? Right? So a person who does fully appreciate the action, should then according to the common criminal law rules. So, what does this mean in that particular case? And how do you navigate this to ensure that ultimately you don't have someone being indebted for this custody because now we found that they cannot use it. The given issue, additional laws. Okay, I want to put on your face cap. And on understanding. Should have very yes, please. Okay. Dollars use person. You know their use person. And then once a day. This woman looks like accused person smiles and says, oh, this one. You know what? Literally. So the question was, can you understand? So she went on to say, oh, this one. And then went on and on. And then eventually we were like, so what do you do from here? And the law says we have to prosecute this person in sentence. So we had quite a dilemma then because what the prosecutor wanted me to see was, I want you to understand just so you know that okay, thank you. I will place the yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I came of the view that such cases present legal issues. Why we may feel that we are protecting a person with mental conditions. How we know that such we are not actually basic rights of that person. I think the laws need to align the fact that a person needs mental challenges. Yes, without expert evidence, it is difficult to just convince a person intercourse with a person who is deemed
Thank you. So, you see, there's a lot that goes in between attitudes, legal barriers, knowledge. Some of these things are purely attitude issues, right? What involves the law? The lawmaker has a particular perception. What informs the magistrate or how a judge determines the case is formed by what with a particular attitude and the judge with their attitude, right? Not well people their rights. I mean, we just think generally in Africa. How many African cities are civically aware? We know mostly in our countries, very, not just as cities, but as generally, right? We don't know our rights. So the fact that people don't know their rights, they don't know what they do. They won't know where there is a free church and where there is no infringement. And sometimes when you give it in rates, but because they enjoy it, right? It's very important to bring ways that say about providers in the justice sector. But there's also a lot of amongst persons with disabilities. And when we look at the correlation, even with poverty, right, you'll find no civic rights. It's not top of your priority if you don't have a bed to sleep on. So how do we balance those things? How do we show that knowledge of can really be empowering for persons with disabilities in the African context? And when we think about the innovation that will take place, how to create that are really responsive and just tick a box from our perspective? When we sit in a place of privilege and you are a person who is, and community level does not have the basics that they need, is it top of their priority for us to go talk to this person about their rights? And how do we draw the lines between that right that we're promoting and sarcastic that actually make it very relevant? We've got issues on physical barriers, spatial barriers that we've already spoken about, right? The setup of courtrooms, the setup of police stations, and so high up, you can't access access into these buildings. The that you find these institutions, the distance to criminal justice institutions as well, far and wide apart, especially when you go to rural areas in most of the African countries. Inappropriate or inconducive justice institutions in terms of the structures. When you think about the communication barriers, you must give oral testimony in court or written establishment. That's by which testify. Then God now technologies as to develop communication tools, right? To what extent those being accessed by the ordinary citizens. So I put on one side that is what my topic was, but I also wanted us to be inside those barriers. What the solutions can be? What we know about this, what solutions can we be offering to overcome some of these barriers? And I'm hoping that someone will also speak some of those solutions, right? But just for us to think more practically, because we are experiencing these things on the ground. The way we have responded to the barrier of access to justice has basically been to just say, let's have a one size fits all. For communication, this is what we should put in place. Irrespective of the personal, if you still I refer to identities and experiences, I think should be at the very core of whatever solution we have to address each of these barriers. To see the systemic, to see our structure, our problems, we know them. But how the experiences that we were sharing in this room, those of the people that we work with, to bring real solutions to the table. I don't have answers. All I can say is I know all of us have had some form of best practice in one way or another. We need to collect these. We need to document them. We need to be able to be sharing them and experimenting using those in different contexts. If it's worked in Kenya, can we use it in Zambia or in Malawi? If it's worked in Zimbabwe, can it be used in Lesotho or in Botswana? And so on and so forth. Some of the things will not be transferable. I think we all know that, right? Because maybe our system, cultural orientations are different. But some might. And it's in that exploration that I think we might be able to get real, tangible solutions. The next slide, please. Ultimately, whatever solutions we have must still speak to the standards that have been set by the UNCRPD and by the African Disability Protocol. Now, I know most African countries, and they have not signed the African Disability Protocol. And I don't think it's hard to implement what's contained in the protocol, provided there is political will. Because in all honesty, most of our human rights instruments, if not all, are still dependent on states being able to do something, which means states must have political will to implement the content that particular treaty. I will not go into any detail in those two because I know that's really Professor Mona's entire presentation. Say is that the African Disabilities Protocol does some contextualized responses on how we can address access barriers, right? So we know during UNCRPD, for example, that the federal has a right to access justice. And that there's need for creative and whatever other to some extent we prefer budgetary intervention that the rights are fully enjoyed. And then there's training of personnel, and that's one. But one of the unique features of the Disability Protocol is that it recognizes our traditional justice system. And sometimes it's about access to justice, we need to get that we do have an indigenous justice system that in many ways has identifies with the people that it serves, is more accessible to the people that it serves. Whether it actually delivers better justice or not, I think is something that we should discuss and explore. In certain instances, it has proved so, in others, maybe not so much. What does it mean for persons with disabilities? How accessible are these? What do we need to be doing with those systems that are already more accessible to our people? And those things that speak about the experiences. So in my last slide, I just want to emphasize that real access to justice, focusing on a person's ability to enjoy their entire fundamental freedoms. Because if freedoms are violated and you do not have recourse to remedy that, you're basically living a life that's not dignified, right? You are living in an inhumane situation, and that has been the Black persons with disabilities. The second is that knowing the barriers that persons with disabilities experience gives us an opportunity to figure out what kind of solutions we need to put in place, so that solutions are not abstract. And a lot of our laws, our policies, including international human rights treaties, if I say so, are very abstract. Right? They give this high profile, high level. It still is dependent on people at grassroots level to be able to translate those into meaningful interventions. So we just have our frameworks that help us, and how do we actually make this a reality? And that's the point. And we need to involve persons with disabilities in the solutions. They need to share their experiences, and based on that experience, we need to implement. So I think it's something that I really like. I've always appreciated this quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. Where after during human rights begin, in small places, so close and so small that they cannot be seen on any map in the world. Such are the places where every man, every woman, and child, if I were them, every child and man, so sees equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity without discrimination. Unless these rights are meaning there, those small places, they have little meaning anyway. For us to realize the rights to access to justice for persons with disabilities in a meaningful way, it must strike home. It must be close to their individual experience. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Do you have any questions? We want to take 3 questions only.
And my question for an experience, as people were explaining the experiences they've had in terms of the barriers for accessing justice, she might even know a case I've worked on about sexually abused against children. And this man is currently appeals in one of the countries that we work in. And it is so unfortunate that the court judge dismissed the matter at the High Court credibility of this. That's a term we like using. And I'm glad government is here, judicial officer. And I would really like to just hear after this experience that we had, after the wonderful presentation she made, when we discussed credibility of women during such abuse, where should they go? How should they explain their story? So that's the thing that created the eyes so that they can get justice at the end of the day. Because trust you me, we all know at the Court of Appeal, the matter will drag, and before we even get justice, it will be 10 years later, it will be 15 years later. This happened. So how do we move forward? How do we ensure that there is a solution? As you say, there are best practices, discuss solutions as well. I would just like to hear from you, Chief, from the magistrates, from itself as well. How can we help or how can we ensure that this is also addressed? Going to qualify. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I thought I'm not straight.
I think from what Jennifer said, what comes to mind in terms of parents, I think in terms of recommendations, because a whole lot of some of these things requires positive action of decision makers to fund and to think that they don't come, not to just make assumptions when they see people go deep, because obviously it doesn't mean that this person wasn't raped. You just need to find ways that enable that person to be able to communicate what happened to them. And I think most of us, in fact, as the legal system itself, we end up dealing with people as cases. We want to just get things done. So you are magistrate, you've got your docket, you've got 50 cases for that day. I can't stay the whole day on this case because that might be what is required to actually get. I think we need the use of disability shift in how
Your health with mentorship in how we do things. I more than anything because a person has a perception of this world. I think because we don't discuss those attitudes enough, especially people did learn, right? It's a common man's problem, the lower ranks of society. It's a common problem through society, all the way to the most experienced person. So we need really interventions for addressing this attitude, part of, paradigm shifts that spoken to. The second thing is the need for us to just start doing more advocacy. Many instances, naming and is effective. I kid you, there's no one magistrate, not one judge who wants to come out and be labeled as discriminatory, incompetent, inconsiderate, or any of these other terms, right? So the organizations that are working to promote the rights of persons with disabilities, how well are we documenting ability, right? Yes. How well are we documenting these experiences? How well are we using what we document to engage natural rights for. So I teach in school. One of the courses I teach is a clinical legal education. What we've been doing over the years, so the 4 years that I was when I was doing business, it wasn't that previously we did it and we've done it again this year. Is have cases like those, real life cases, taught to students, give them a whole, because it's a practical course, so they have to learn lawyering in a different way, right? So if you're presenting rights of vulnerable groups, we have persons with disabilities, children, women, so we discuss the students into issues that are and then we ask them, it ultimately ends in a trial advocacy. So the court allows to use the court premises and have a court trial based on the case, basically mimicking exactly what happened there. They'll have to call their witnesses, prep their witnesses, have the trial. We see the three of us as lecturers, we see that judges, comes and moves what? A week. I don't know what I'm used to this, right? In to that. So we are not, and we sit and we invite all persons with disabilities, if it's a disability case, to be in the gallery and listen, witness, and give feedback to the students on how well they felt that they represented those clients, which represented the issues, represented the experiences. In the last time we did, we took the different challenges that persons with disabilities brought and created a forum with the parliamentarians, because we also invite some judges to sit if they are free. And the judges, this is really parliament, because look at the law they've given us. Right? So that you see judges, parliamentarians, and then we do brief prepared by students and the brief prepared by persons with disabilities. That's, by the way, one of the ways that we need to contribute to the change in the mental health act. Right? So that kind of intervention, it's a way of advocacy, teaching for students, but also using the way of advocating to the different police bearers, the different actors in the education sector, for them to see, now we're meaning this is a real life case, because it creates on a person's life, because they perhaps do not see it from that aspect. But the naming and shaming, this is when you're discussing with other judges, then it wants to be discussing with judges. Oh, pardon. Oh, okay. Is it a different question or is it the same? Is it on this issue or is it a different question altogether? It's a different question. Okay, so I will take this, so we can then, is that okay? Take yours and then we can move on.
Yeah, just following up on your line of naming and shaming. I'm thinking also within the different justice sectors, because there are magistrates who are doing very genuine work in terms of advocating for the rights of persons with disabilities. But in most cases, like they are lone matters. Alone, no one sees what they're doing. Maybe one thing to be at the center or this convening, a deliberate attempt to ask what are some of the things done by people and they are contributing to policy and change and improvement and recognition that we are trying to make a difference in systems because systems are different.
There with a champions program, something had a very, very program for HIV related in all areas, justice, and so on and so forth. We can believe that. I completely agree.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I have two questions. I'll speak now as a person with disability. It may not necessarily be to you, but I was just reflecting from your presentation and the other two presentations in terms of where does criminal justice system stand and where does it end. And I also wanted to think around from what your presentation the preparedness of the criminal justice on disability. I'm bringing this to your attention. There was already a comment I wanted to mention about the witness protection of us with disabilities who are now sometimes also using witnesses. And a lot of cover in terms of how we look at those areas of issues. Issues of linkage around people with disabilities, I think there are also barriers that I thought maybe, I don't know if it's a presentation dealing with it, but I thought barriers we could also explore those. Back to basics, it's actually a very focused around the criminal nature of the crime. I work in a space of people with abilities. I want to bring a good example of the deformed. I have so many cases around the people with abilities who are now on the other side as us. But they are deformed. So it was a quite interesting debate, I think, for example. So I also want to think now to say this is a person with disability who has now committed a crime. How to handle that? Because there are still so many issues. Some still treat us as the sympathy antidotes and know that I'm criminal. And then there's also that other side where I've seen prosecutors come to me to say, okay, this is a case of person practice. How do I handle this criminal? Which then provide guidance and all that. Or when they're in detention, how do we handle them? Even when some are already in prison, they come and say, how do we handle them? Or are they already in prison? Like, back to the reason of combination and all that. So I think it would be quite interesting also as magistrate to think around if a person with a disability has committed that crime, how do we handle that in terms of what we are doing for the representation. And the last one was most parents with a most parents, and this is just my experience, and we have seen so many parents abandoning children families. And the basis of the legal act is discrimination, which is what we have discussed in disability. And if you look at the most of African countries, we have also have child protection laws, which already brings this issue of abandonment and all that. When you bring those cases to court, you see that they are not taken seriously. In most children now are not enjoying their economic social rights because of that abuse or neglecting that element of discrimination that is affecting raising a child like another child in our society. I thought these are all barriers that we could reflect and we should also start considering them as serious crimes for us as people with disabilities. Because if I don't go to school, then I'm not independent. If my mom and dad abandon me because I have evidence, which there's clear evidence that I abandoned me because of a disability, when I go to court, there's no that case. So I think that they look small cases, but they have generational impact to disabilities.
Thank you so much for that, Professor. I'll quickly say, your questions are very important, right? In terms of the parameters of access to justice, basically, I feel access to justice is not limited on the justice sector, right? So when we speak about violations, how do we correct them? Sometimes we have administrative interventions, right, that can be made maybe at school level for education kind of interventions where you just speak to the teachers, you speak to the principal, whether it's in charge of the school, and they're able to rectify a particular human rights violation, right? So for me, when it begins and where it ends, I was talking about health rights violations happening in health facilities. You've had a lot of health facilities in African countries, and this suggestion talks, you said, comment box where you can put in your experiences and you can name the person. When I was talking about the naming and shaming, in those areas, that has worked for doctors who have a certain bad attitude toward persons, right? So this doctor is called out when you engage them, and sometimes this bad attitude really comes from ignorance. So it's not that this person just wants to be mean or violent, particular, but it comes out of ignorance of what they should be doing, what they should not be doing, and they are identifies the problem. So some of these interventions can really be as small as that, just to see the directive in a particular case. When we talk about So when we talk about the criminal justice, a lot of barriers, yeah, are not just limited to the criminal justice system. And the example that you're giving with regard to children and being abandoned. We had a project, again, from the education course, when we started this problems. A woman who is a single mother has to go out and sell vegetables, and she has this one child with an intellectual disability. She works as the child in that community. The second families with a single I'm going to the proposal. Is it possible to have a schedule where you segment today the person on duty for watching over all the time the child has been left alone? Maybe they've managed to free themselves from the room, they run out, they don't know where the child is going for this, or the child is raped, and knows this child remains alone, and they break into his house and they found the child, and so on and so forth. Or the child has been kept to treat the whole day, and they're not eating anything, and so in a very bad state. So because of that, we got the community to get involved and share responsibilities amongst us. We had a conversation. Do you see why this is wrong? And they said, yeah, it's wrong, but what can we do? And then we had to sit and explore possible ways. And they were still doing it now. This was 5-6 years ago, right? Whether we're sitting and they'll have to share possibility amongst themselves. So almost rational criminal situation because there are real challenges that people experience. Most out of capacity and the ability to see differently. So if we engage and explore the solution, we will face it. Yes, proper contact on the part of the parent. Then, enforcing skills. How well prepared are people to enforce skills? Because, right, it's such a but there's also a significant people think it's a waste of time so to act there we can achieve this and so on and so forth. So we literally just started the process of developing a multi-sectorial guide for different actors, including prosecutors, judges handbook is done, the prosecutors manual is being done, the social welfare processes, procedures are being done. And we're working together with all of these groups to develop this one booklet, which we pull out guidance notes, but also developing court rules on how to deal with children in different circumstances, and based on the experiences that we're having. So I think what happens usually when most actors don't want to do that, especially if it's very progressive and it's giving these times. You have to think about, practically what does this provision mean? How can it be realized? Where do we need to amend them? Where do we need to completely abolish them to make it so? And I think those are some of the expectations that the USCIP stability, African stability protocol. I expect states to do, but we will never be prepared if we don't start from somewhere and if we don't engage the persons who are most affected. I hope I have answered. I think I don't get to the questions. If you don't take any more questions, yeah, I cut my apologies out to the
representation for contributions. We will now break for lunch for like 40 minutes. Already will continue with the presentation. Thank you.